Hello guys, this is Tanvi Malhara from Bloggers Ideas, and today I'm going to do a detailed review of the Reading and Writing Poetry Masterclass, which is done by Billy Collins. Before that, let me do a quick introduction to this masterclass platform. Now, this masterclass is basically a platform where you get all the courses under one roof. It's a course website where you get to learn about various subjects. What sets it apart from the other educational websites out there is that the Masterclass is a curated course platform that is taught by the leading experts of the given industry, which is supremely unique in my opinion. It has two pricing structures. If you're looking into taking only one particular course, then you can pay $90 and get a lifetime access to that course, or you can opt for an all-access pass where you can pay $180 annually and can access as many courses as you wish. I would really advise you to go for the second option, as the content on this platform is simply exceptional and it is really hard to choose one course. You would like to explore and know more about the courses and the knowledge that is shared by the instructors. But if you're sure and you're only looking for one particular course, then go for $90 option and get a lifelong access for that specific one course. Now, just to show you a quick review of the masterclass homepage, here is the profile. Now, community is where you can start a dialogue, a discussion on any topic or any course with fellow students who have signed up for these courses. Alright, you can also gift an all-access pass to your friend or a family member who can benefit from this masterclass. It will be like giving the gift of education and experience to your loved ones. You can access courses which deal with various topics and choose which one would you like to learn or which instructor would you like to listen to. So that was all about the masterclass homepage. Now coming back to our course about reading and writing poetry by Billy Collins, and whether it is worth it for you or not, let's get started. Okay, now who is Billy? Billy Collins is a deemed and most popular poet in the United States by many people. His work in the field of poetry has been unparalleled. His career has spanned over quite a few years. He has authored almost 10 collections of poetry, earning him an appointment as the Poet Laureate of the US from the year 2001 to 2003. His work covers a variety of topics relating to his personal experiences and the world around him. He is a true gem in existence. And when it comes to classical poet and authors, former distinguished professor at Lehman College of the City University of New York, Billy has been inducted into the American Academy of Arts and Literature. Now, coming to the next section. This course is a heaven for all the literature lovers out there. This masterclass provides a thoughtful insight into the life of a poet. Billy describes to us how you should go about grasping poetry and the subtle art of writing what you feel. Conversation with the fellow poet have been included in this masterclass, which makes it super enjoyable. This class also includes a section dedicated to Billy's reaction and criticism on his students' work. Okay, now this masterclass has been divided into 7 sections. After a brief introduction by Billy Collins, each section provides a significant viewpoint on an important aspect of poetry. As we sit down with Billy Collins in the first section of this masterclass, he describes how poetry has been perceived by the masses. For the past couple of years, he tells us how emotions and feelings have a strong connection to the way we put our thoughts on paper. Initially, it was believed that only young women could pen down their feelings, but as time progressed, poetry has become an escape for everyone. He says when you write a poem, your audience should clearly see the fact that you love poetry more than you love yourself, although that might not be true in real life. I get that. The next session has Billy talking to us about the freedom that poetry provides with us. According to him, you can write about a poem that is anything and about everything. As you embark on a journey to find the topic that you wish to write about, make sure you have very clear thought process dedicated to it. With so much to write about, young poets usually get lost trying to explain different things. Billy's advice: stay true to the core of the poem. One should not dwindle away from the whole vibe of the poem. Now, Coming to the next section, as we progress into the next section of the masterclass, we get down to writing a poem. Billy has some good pointers to give you in the first session, and now the first rule he gives is always be in the possession of a notebook. I laughed at this point because I have had many instances where I had certain thought in my mind which I wanted to write down, but there was no notebook nearby. Billy says if you're unsure about how to write the beginning of a poem, just jot down some lines you like. Pick from them a line you think you would do justice to the second line. He says that you should always start writing from the beginning. Starting from writing the middle or end kills the continuation of thoughts and events happening in your head. So that is really important. The next session has Billy talking to us about how he prefers talking and writing on a journal rather than typing his thoughts on computer. He explains that whenever you don't like your lines, you can cut them out and create a mess. While on computer, you delete all those lines. The mess is really important, as you can always go back and compare the stanza you have now to the ones you had earlier. It also helps you to figure out the stuff that you clearly should not write with reference to the core of the poem. Towards the end, Billy reads out his poem, The Grand Central, and shares how he wrote this poem using his power of imagination. Now, the third section of this masterclass starts off with Billy explaining that poetry and ambiguity go hand in hand. I thoroughly relate to this statement. A single poem can mean 2 or 3 different meanings. According to Billy, the process of understanding a poem is actually very frustrating. But this ambiguity is necessary to enrich the essence of a poem. He says that once you sit down to read a poem, you should always write down beside each stanza about your learnings from the line. This habit makes you a good reader and makes it fun to understand what a poet is actually trying to convey. In this, we are introduced to a guest lecture. She invites her poet friend called Mary, and they have a very fruitful discussion on the writings of Emily Dickinson. They read her poem, I Felt a Funeral, and the poet proceeds to share their insight as to what they could grasp from this poem. They share a different understanding of the same poem. This proves the fact that every reader makes a poem his or her own. They discuss the method Emily Dickinson to write poems and feel that she provides the reader the stability of emotions. Coming to the next section, which is the last session of this section, we have both the poets react to writings of none other than the great William Shakespeare. Both of these poets break down each other's line by Shakespeare in his famous sonnet 73 and describes how writings of William are so intricate and attached to the work. Every work is different than the rest, which sets him apart. Now that we have discussed this, the next section is titled Working with the Form, that has been divided into quality sessions. In the first session, Billy talks about how a poet can use sound techniques to his advantage. I personally have come across some poems which do not have a specific rhyme scheme, yet they pack a powerful punch and gets you to think. The next section here is when Billy considers himself to be a terrible rhymer. I know I can relate to him so much. It gets so difficult to rhyme and provide readers with the clarity of emotions. Hence, Billy advises that one must focus on providing the reader with a visual picture of the feelings or references in the poem. If your poem can have the readers embrace their imaginative powers, your job as a poet has been done supremely well. Now, in the next session, Billy describes how he likes to present his poems in a playful manner. He says by adding some sort of imaginative twists or turns midway through a poem can do wonders. He describes how there are different turns in a poem, like the Monday and the Balleny by Louis Jenkins. Coming to the next section, the following 3 sessions see the return of Mary. Here both poets discuss about her work acclaimed, what the living do. She describes the poem and comes out later from the letter to her brother. She says one can find inspiration from anything that is happening around us and within us. In the next session, it's time to review Billy's own poem, The Death of the Hat. One can clearly see that the poem is about a hat dying. With the closer analysis, Billy explained how it is actually an edgy to his father. He has cleverly added certain instances and stanzas that do justice to the thought behind the poem. Murray applauds the poem as a whole, and we are all awestruck. The second last session has Billy explain to us who his influences were in his life. He has many people growing up as influential. He says it's always a plus point. He says it's important that a budding poet reads work of other established poets in order to connect with them and learn from them. He confesses that he was personally inspired by Philip Larkin through his poem The Mower. Now, in the last section, Mary Hove describes the utmost goal of a poet should not be to write just a poem, as she explains that you should find your voice and then stick to it. All the famous and iconic poets and writers were much more than just poets. They were expressionists who all over the world with their thoughts and voice spread their voice. You have to find it and you have to hold on to it. But what is this voice? How do we find it? Not to worry, Billy comes to our rescue with this much needed section on finding your voice. According to Billy, to come to a successful and acclaimed poet, one must become very comfortable pushing outside the crowd. You must have a unique writing style or a creative angle to explain your things which stands out from the fellow poets who have been writing about the same things as you are. Humor is an integral part of the poem, only if it is used in the right manner. He explains how he uses the just amount of humor in his poem. He gives his thoughts about the poem The Swan by the Edgewater Lake, and he shows how it was funny and had a little different perspective to it. The final section of this masterclass, Billy brings on two of her students and listens and reviews their poems. The first student is Sarah and the second is Paul. They sit down beside Billy and explain their perspective towards their writing. I was inspired how these young, talented students were so good at writing poems. Clearly they have been taught by the best of the best. Alas, this is the last session of this deeply insightful masterclass. Billy leaves us with some inspirational words to join the poet community and start writing. He explains the process of getting your poems published and tells us that we should always stick to the path. That was it. If you have been interested in poems and writing it, this masterclass is for you. No matter what level of experience you have in writing poems, this will serve you exactly the way you want to. Pros of this course. Some of the pros of this masterclass are different viewpoints provided by fellow poets and students, in-depth interview and reviews of the classic poems. Now, I think if you have enjoyed this video, you can enjoy the course. I was really inspired. As a kid, I was always into reading and writing, and this masterclass helped me hone my skills. It has cleared my doubts about writing lines and actually encouraged me to write more. I can already see my journal getting filled with all sorts of rhymes and stanzas. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We would love to hear your thoughts for the same in the comment section below. Also, I highly recommend reading and writing poetry masterclass course to all of you. And if you wish to consider and pursue this, you can find all the details in the description box below. Also, if you like this review, then please like, share this video, and for more such reviews, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And one last thing, before leaving, do click the bell icon. Thank you so much. Lots of love. Mwah.